So, like you said, my name is Caleb. I think I know a lot of you, but those of you who don't know me, I am a fourth semester, and I went to University of Central Florida, all the way over in beautiful sunny Orlando. And so today I'm going to be talking to you guys about my beautiful baby girl. So this is a picture of the whole family here. That's my wife, Laurel, on the right. I love this picture. We're actually, so this was actually recently after she left the island. I don't want to go into the whole thing, but these shirts are actually some t-shirts that we made after everything happened. We actually made about a couple hundred of them for a lot of our friends and family. But anyways, I'll get into the story there as we go forward. So first thing I want to do, so I like to describe Belle as an extraordinary girl with some extraordinary challenges, but a very extraordinary life. And that's kind of the theme that I'm going to be following as I tell you guys about her. So I'm going to go ahead and apologize in advance because this whole PowerPoint is just a bunch of pictures. It was the only way I could think of to kind of keep my thoughts straight as I went through this. I pretty much just took my Facebook page and kind of turned into a PowerPoint. So I apologize in advance, but I'll try to make this as painless as possible. So before I get into Belle's medical history and her condition and the medical challenges that she has, I want to start by just giving you guys a little bit of introduction on just Belle. The first thing you want to do with a new patient is get to know them a little bit, right? So the way I'm going to do this is just the best way to get to know somebody is to ask about their hobbies, right? So these are some of Belle's hobbies. She loves to dress up. Okay, so this is Halloween last year. Actually, I think this may be the same year. I think she had two costumes. This is her being Olaf for all my nieces this year. This was the year before. I don't think she liked being the penguin, actually. So she wanted to be Mary Poppins, and my wife got dibs on that, I guess. So she was the penguin. And she's not exclusive to Halloween. Even on Christmas, she'll dress up sometimes. So, and that's her sister Penny right there. And yes, we are one of those families that calls the dog a sibling. So another interest of hers is, of course, hanging out with the big sis. That I'm not so sure about. I think she pulled too much trouble. Let's see, what else? Like any girl, she loves being pampered. This is her after getting her first nail job done. And she's not too good though. She does love to play Halo on Xbox Live. This was actually taken when she was about 6 months old, so she started early. Always telling her to keep the profanity down, yelling at the microphone. You guys know about that. Let's see. And she loves to travel, but I'll kind of go into this a little bit more at the end because that's probably one of her favorite hobbies. Okay? So now that you know a little bit about Belle, I get to tell you guys a little bit about her history and sort of her medical challenges and her special needs that she has. So I'm going to be spending the next little bit talking about that. So this is, of course, my wife when she was pregnant. That's kind of where all this began. The top picture, that's the first ultrasound we ever had. And this was taken at her 22-week appointment. So that's actually the same day that we found out that she was a girl, so it's pretty exciting. The nurse that was doing the ultrasound noticed something a little bit strange and said that she was going to go talk to the doctor and then have the doctor come and talk to us. So we were not really sure what that was about, but we kind of just waited patiently for that. It turns out that the doctor explained she saw an abnormality on the ultrasound. That basically the ventricles in Belle's brain were enlarged. So I didn't know anything about medicine at the time, but now most of us in the room will say, okay, enlarged ventricles in the brain is hydrocephalus. Even your first semesters might even know that by now. You just had that in that already. So she had hydrocephalus, and we had no idea what that meant, no idea how that would affect her. It was, of course, very scary. I mean, we didn't even know at the time if she would survive the term. it happened pretty quick, and it was definitely like a brick wall getting that news from the doctor. But it was, at that point, it was kind of a waiting game, because we didn't really know until she was born exactly how that would manifest as far as symptoms. So this was taken the day that she was born, and that was and that was when we started to sort of get a picture of exactly what was going to result of the hydrocephalus and the pressure of her brain. First thing that we noticed, if you look closely here, you can see that her right eye is kind of smaller than her left eye. As it turns out, something with the compression in her brain caused a delay in the development of her right eye, and so she's actually blind in her right eye. So that was the first thing that we saw. Pretty soon we realized that she seemed to be kind of weak. You can tell from this picture when I'm holding her, most babies will kind of naturally curl their arms up. This is sort of like what you may have learned in MCB, the floppy baby syndrome. Does that sound familiar? So and even now today when you hold her, she's very weak. So we realized that she had a pretty severe form of muscular dystrophy. From then, we just started doing lots of tests. I just threw this picture in here. I thought it was really cute because she was all wrapped up. I actually had in for an MRI with this one. And usually it's a funny thing. She's a very chill, relaxed baby. Usually they have to, I think, put babies that small under some sort of anesthesia so they're not moving around for the MRI. But here they just wrapped her up like that, and she was good to go. So we soon also realized that she wasn't really very interested in feeding, and so we tried to give her a bottle, and she just didn't have the natural reflexes to really, suckle on it and drink. So we, I think the day after she was born, they put in a feeding tube, or maybe the day after, I'm not sure. So she had a feeding tube put in, and after about a week, we decided to have one surgically put in that would be a little bit more permanent. So this is right after her first surgery, so that's her little G tube right there. And she still has that today. She still can't really feed on her own orally, and so she has to be fed through that tube. So it didn't take long before she came down with a pretty serious infection. We had her home for I think 3 days before we had to take her back to the ER. She came down with parainfluenza virus. We brought her back to the hospital and had to spend a couple of weeks there. And so we realized pretty quickly that, it was very obvious that she was a little bit more susceptible to infections. She was definitely weaker. Part of it is because of the muscular dystrophy. She doesn't really have the normal strong cough reflex that a lot of kids have. And so she's definitely much more susceptible to viral and bacterial infections than most kids. A few months later, this is about when she, I think, 5 months old, we started to notice that she was having these muscle spasms. Didn't realize what it was, but it actually turned out that she was having seizures about 12, 13 times a day. So after bringing her in and getting her EEGs and the whole workup, they realized what was going on. And so now she's on anti-epileptic medications and has to get regular EEGs every 6 months or so. So I like this picture. This was actually about a year ago, one of her routine EEGs. Let's see. So, for the next year or so, she had a few hospital visits. She's actually had pneumonia 3 different times now, usually from a Pseudomonas infection. So she's had that one, she's had Pseudomonas infections 3, maybe 4 times. I think she's had pneumonia twice. So this is just some pictures. This is her on a CPAP, just some positive pressure. That's pain from Batman. Striking similarity. We had to spend a couple of holidays in the hospitals. That was Christmas, 4th of July, but made the best of it and still having her dressed up as usual. So fast forward, I got into ABC, And it was a very difficult decision to whether or not to bring her to the island because, you know, we knew that she was weaker and she was definitely more fragile than most kids are. And we really thought about just leaving her at home. So again, you know, it was a tough decision, but we did bring her to the island when I moved here. And you know, we tried to take every precaution that we could, and we even did regular breathing treatments with her to make sure that she didn't have anything going up in her lungs. So she was here for about 6 months, and she did great. She was thriving. She loved the island. And then she got really, really sick. And probably the most, I guess, scary situation that we've ever had, or I guess the biggest scare that we've had with her, happened here in St. Martin. And unfortunately, if you can't already tell, I'm not the best storyteller at all, but not to worry, because although my wife could not be here tonight, I was able to get a little video of her, and she's going to actually tell you guys the story of what happened here in St. Martin, so she can do it a lot better. Are the lights good? Can we? Low, down, good.
Hey guys, my name is Laurel Dunlap. I'm Caleb's wife. I'm over here residing in Jacksonville, Florida right now while he finishes up school, but I wanted to go ahead and tell you a little bit about our story and our daughter Isabella, or Belle as we like to call her. Thanks Caleb for tossing it over to me, and let me just go ahead and give you a little breakdown of everything we've been through this past year. So June 6, 2015, this day will forever be etched into my memory. It was the day I thought my daughter was going to die. Even a year later, I still get that stomach-turning feeling when I let my mind drift back to that island hospital. I now know how easily Belle could have been taken from us. It began as another beautiful Saturday morning in St. Martin. We were at home in our tiny apartment, and we noticed that Belle was not acting like herself. She had some nasal congestion and was very lethargic, and really just seemed like she was just under the weather. We didn't want to take any chances, so we decided to bring her to the St. Martin Medical Center. We arrived at the ER, and as soon as one of the nurses walked out and took a look at Belle, I knew from that point we were in trouble. I will never forget the look on his face. I could see complete horror in his eyes, and it's just as if I had seen a ghost myself. They brought out the ER physician to the waiting room, and all he said to me was, "Follow me." Within seconds, they were hooking her up to monitors, pumping her full of oxygen, and taking blood samples. I remember they switched her pulse ox out twice because they thought it wasn't reading her oxygen levels properly. I guess they thought there was no way she could possibly be satting at 55% oxygen saturation levels. Once they realized that the reading was accurate, they decided they had to intubate her. She was transferred to the ICU unit, and within hours it was very clear that her condition was not improving. The physicians explained to us that they were just not equipped to care for such a small patient in such critical condition. We had no choice but to wait until a team had arrived from the States and medevac her back here in Florida. On top of everything, the small size of the ICU unit, there was not enough space for parents or visitors to stay overnight, aside from waiting rooms that were open to the outside and swarming with mosquitoes. We made it home around 1 a.m. and we had planned to meet with the doctors early in the morning to discuss how and where we would be flying Belle to. At around 3:30 a.m. we got a phone call from the hospital. Belle's oxygen levels were getting worse, and they told us that we needed to arrive as soon as possible because it did not look good. That drive from our apartment to the hospital was the worst experience I've ever felt in my entire life. I really thought we were about to lose our baby girl. It was like we were living a nightmare that we couldn't wake up from, and we had made it to the hospital just in time for her to be re-intubated. She was stable for the moment, so the doctor pulled us aside and that he wouldn't be in until around 8 a.m. that morning. Around 7:45, the doctor had not arrived yet, and Bella's oxygen started dropping down again, and this time the nurses couldn't get it to come back up. The next 20 minutes until the doctor arrived are still kind of a blur to me. All I remember is hysterically crying and begging them to help her. At one point, they were bagging her off the ventilator, and it still wasn't helping. Caleb was having to hold me up because I was so hysterical, and I thought this was finally the moment we would lose her. The doctor finally arrived, and he had to kick us out of the room to work on her. I just remember screaming and crying in the waiting room, and total strangers came up to me and were praying out loud for us. Almost 2 hours later, the doctor came out to the waiting room. He informed us that they did have to reintubate her a second time, but she was stable at the moment but needed to be flown out to the States as soon as possible. So over the next 12 hours, Caleb was on the phone with the insurance company to get logistics settled. They finally arrived around midnight, and Belle and Caleb were being evac back here in Jacksonville to Wilson Children's Hospital. Once Belle was back in the States, she finally started improving, but still wasn't quite out of the woods just yet. After about 2 weeks, they tried extubating her to get her off of the vent, and unfortunately, she failed twice. So we came to the decision to have the tracheostomy tube placed. After the long process of trach training, we were finally able to be discharged after spending a total of 5 weeks in the hospital. The trach absolutely terrified me at first, but I can say now, a full year later, that this is the very best thing for her. She has a stable airway, and she has not had hospital admission for an entire year. We may have a bit more equipment now that comes along with a bit more challenges, but I am so grateful for my sweet girl that she is still here with us. She still requires a continuous low flow of oxygen, but she is stable and thriving. Last week, we actually had our first hospital admit for an entire year, and I'm happy to say it was only a 4-day stay. She developed a viral infection, and we are currently riding it out at home. Caleb started back with school in August of 2015, and we have been living apart since then. Our day-to-day life has changed in that Caleb and I are living apart, and we rely heavily on Wi-Fi calls and video chats. And there has been more planning that goes into Belle's day-to-day care, but I'm always up for the challenge. I wish I could say this past year has been easy, but it has been far from it. From learning how to care for a kiddo with a trach, new medical equipment, Caleb and I living apart, Belle getting a few respiratory infections, single parenting, admitting to myself that I need help in caring for my one and only kiddo, and starting in-home nursing, and just trying to take time for myself. It has been quite the year, but we have relied heavily on our faith to take us through this temporary season in our lives. My hope is that through Belle's story, that they can be reminded that we always should appreciate the many things we have been blessed with in our lives. Be grateful for your family, be grateful for your good health, be grateful for your life, and be grateful for every time you wake up for another beautiful day on this earth. Much love from myself and Belle here in Florida, and we'll send it back to you, Caleb.
How we doing? The story's not over, so I'm not bringing it back, okay? So just hang on. Here we go. So the best part's still coming. So as you can probably kind of tell from the video, taking care of Belle can be very, very difficult. You can see the way my wife was picking her up and moving her around. She still really doesn't have much muscle tone at all. She can't sit up. She can't even hold her head up. She certainly can't crawl or walk or anything like that. In a lot of ways, she's really still sort of like an infant, a very, very big infant. But she's now 3.5 years old, and honestly, my wife is really the absolute expert on taking care of her. I mean, there's all kinds of medical equipment that she has to know how to use and take with her anywhere she goes. There's 20 different medications that she has to aliquot out every single morning and have it all planned out. All kinds of doctor visits and everything, and she does that all on her own. And it definitely is difficult for me. I mean, I certainly do feel guilty sometimes that I'm here doing my thing and doing school, and not only has she sort of put her life on hold as far as her career for me to do this, but she's having to do everything on her own at home. On top of that, it can certainly be stressful for me and for my wife, just the fact that she's so susceptible to infections. Something that I forgot to mention at the beginning of the talk is that after her seizures started happening, we saw some genetic counseling, and they decided that they think she may have a condition called, a very rare condition called Walker-Warburg syndrome. And it was one of those things that we did some genetic testing. They weren't able to confirm it as being positive or negative. So it's still not 100% whether or not she does have that. It certainly fit with all of her symptoms and the hydrocephalus and the seizures and everything like that. And it's difficult because when we first found that out, I mean, what do you do when you get a new diagnosis? You go home and you Google it, right? So we're Googling what this Walker-Warburg syndrome is, and it's got a pretty dismal prognosis. I mean, a lot of kids that have this condition only live to about 3 years. And you know what? Belle's 3.5 years old now, so she's already gotten past that. It's certainly difficult because anytime she gets an infection, whether it's a big infection, a small infection, and it happens even more frequently now that she has the trach, it kind of drives a knife in a little bit. Because you just worry like, could this be it? I mean, a lot of the kids that unfortunately pass away from this condition is because of a respiratory issue or infection. So it can be difficult to live with. But how do we deal with it? How do my wife and I live with this every single day, and I guess not get just completely discouraged and depressed and worry about it? And honestly, the answer is that we try to give Belle the most full life we possibly can. We decided, and we kind of promised ourselves a very long time ago, that we never wanted her disability and her challenges to limit her or define her. So the last thing I want to do for you guys is I want to show you some pictures of the last segment here, which is Belle's extraordinary life. Because when you see a kid like that, in the video, and you see how weak they are and how frail they are, I think we have kind of a natural tendency to just think, that must be very difficult. She probably can't really do much. She must be very limited. And with Belle, we've ever since she was a baby, we've tried very hard to make that not at all the case. So these are some pictures of some things she's done. So I told you that she likes to travel. So she's been to very many countries: St. Barth, St. Thomas, of course, St. Martin, with the Kale in there. Bahamas, Cozumel, she's been to Grand Cayman. Let's see, she's actually been on 2 cruises. This here is the Carnival Breeze, Carnival's biggest ship, I think still. Took her on the Royal Caribbean Oasis, which is, I think up until about a month ago, was the biggest cruise ship in the world. This is also some pictures of the Oasis here. She's been to Disney probably way more times than 99% of adults. We had annual passes for a while, so we would just go all the time. She loves Disney. She's also been to zoos. She's been to aquariums. This was actually just at the last break in April. She's been to science museums. All kinds of things. So this is, and this is, believe me, this is actually a condensed version. I wanted to spare you guys, all the stuff that she's done. But she's had a very, very full life, and I think that's kind of the key to it. Is that when they first approached me to see if I would think about presenting tonight, I had a feeling it would be pretty tough because I knew that for y'all to really understand Belle and her conditions, I would have to sort of lay out, everything that she lives with on a day-to-day basis. But honestly, we don't usually think about that stuff. It's like we don't even really notice it anymore because we really choose to try to focus on these types of things, on giving her a full, happy life and just loving her and enjoying her, really. So this is my favorite slide here. So this was actually something that she only learned how to do when she was about 2 years old. So most kids can usually smile, I think, within a few days or even a week or two. It took Belle about 2 years to get there, but the first time she smiled, it was an amazing day for us because we didn't know she'd ever be able to do that. So she smiles all the time, and believe me, I have more pictures of this too, but these are kind of the highlights. But this is how I think of Belle. I don't think about this sick kid, this kid that has all these roadblocks, and all these challenges, and all these medical issues. I just see this cute little bubbly girl who, might give us a smile once or twice a day, and loves to travel and just experience life. So what's the point of all this? What's the high yield, I guess, take-home message of everything I'm talking about tonight? It's interesting. There was a nurse actually recently, I think last time we were in the hospital, that asked Laurel and I. She said, how do you guys do it? I feel like you guys just seem like you're so just happy. You're just so at peace, in spite of everything that Belle has been going through. And how do you deal with that? How do you handle it? And it wasn't an easy question to answer. I was like, I don't know. We just I guess we love her. And really, I think what it comes down to though is gratitude. We're just so grateful for all the things that she can do. And really it comes down to a decision you have to make, to either focus all of your time and your emotions on the things that you don't have and the things that you can't do, or you can choose to focus on the things that you have, the things that you can do, and all the good blessings that you have. And I think the mistake that a lot of people make is that they think that's kind of more of a personality trait type of thing. Where, I'm just kind of a glass half empty kind of guy. I'm a glass half full kind of girl. So it's like, it's just kind of my personality. I'm a little more negative. I'm a little more positive. But I don't think that's the case. I think it's very much, it's a choice that you can make. And that's certainly what we try to do with Belle. We know that she has these limitations and these issues, but we choose to just love her and appreciate her and just thank God for all the things that she can do. So the last thing I want to end with you guys is a quote that kind of summarizes that. So it goes, if you spend all your time appreciating the things that you have, you won't have any time left to worry about the things that you don't have. And that's the thing, is that everyone in this room could probably come up here on this stage and talk about something that they struggle with in their lives. It might be a medical thing, it might be a relationship thing, I don't know, it could just be your grades, I try and I can't get Dean's List. But guess what? You're still passing, right? Or maybe some of you, that isn't the case. You failed something. But you know what? You're still here, right? There's always something that you can point to and say, I can't do this, or I don't have this, and other people have it, and they can do it. But rather than do that, focus on the things that you do have, and be grateful for what you can do. With Belle, she might be blind in her right eye, but you know what? She can see out of her left eye. A lot of kids can't do that. Okay, she has to be on oxygen all the time, but you know what? She can breathe on her own. A lot of kids with her condition have to be on ventilators all the time. And you know what? She can't move around, she can't walk, but guess what? She can smile. And for us, that's pretty huge. And by the way, this quote was by my dad. So the last thing, I guess just in summary, there will always be things that you can't do that other people can. There will always be things that you don't have that other people have. But focus on the things that you do have and the things that you can do, And instead of seeing a glass that's half empty, we'll have a glass that's completely full.